Alright guys, good afternoon. 12:30 here in London. Let's have a quick look over some of the moves this morning. The S&P just drifting lower, breaking a bit of support that had held for a fair while. You can see this whole area now just starting to come back to be tested, which is also the pivot. So you'd say that's pretty important. Also, and potentially this trend line broke. I mean, it really reminds me of this area here, but on a shorter time frame. You can see the lows break, comes back to retest, we do drift lower, but then we eventually break through, and that's kind of what I would expect to happen. Not to say that the short from this whole point doesn't work, it's just I think the safer trade may well be later on looking for those longs to come through, but that's certainly going to be a key zone. It has to be 33.15 and then really towards the pivot where we're trading now, 33.10. So eyes on that failed test above where we're trading on that sort of double top, and of course the highest we've been for quite some time. The next real area of support that I'd be looking at is near the handle. 3300 looks like a good enough place. You can see we had some good reaction to that yesterday, early hours. So that, along with the S1, is somewhere I'll be keeping a watch on, and then below there, albeit slightly choppy yesterday morning, you'd be keeping a watch on 32.95 as well. If we start to potentially get excited about a move lower, you might want to start bringing in some sort of trend line, but it's not in play as of yet. But you can see maybe the start of something forming if we were to move a bit lower. The Nasdaq here, you can see similar in, this is an old chart, but similar in that we have just pushed lower only to snap back to that already. So the Nasdaq, while over the 48 hours hasn't done much, is still leading the way in terms of trying to push to the upside. You'd probably call this more of a range now for the Nasdaq, and just waiting for a break either way. All we did was hit the S1, which was basically the low of yesterday as well. To the upside, I mean, above the pivot seems like a good enough place to identify a level 2 to get in long. We had some good resistance there. The only issue is it becomes quite mid-rangey, but volume starting to pick up, so we may well see a move. The pound this morning moving higher, then has become very choppy. The line in the sand for the rest of the day for me is the 131.47 high, turned into low, a couple of false breaks as well, so we know the market is looking at it. And also the high of the day, really, it's double top, failed push to the upside, and we may well start to drift back down to that 47. To the downside, pivot looks as good a place as any. If we extend this zone going back, you can see it's also the high of the 4th and the 3rd as well, so very key point. And when we're looking at the pound, like we talked about yesterday, you've got the weekly trend line, which is going to be all important come Friday. Do we close above it, or is it another false break? At the moment we're above, pretty key, and then therefore you should be aware of the 9th of March, or the week of 9th of March high as well. The euro, it's longer term trend line is sort of intact at the moment. We just snapped back off that previous high, false break, obviously always a good reversal signal. Putting the pivots on here just quickly to have a look. You can see a decent enough reaction just above there. Support turns to resistance. That would be the line in the sand for the rest of the day, so long above if it can get there. To the downside, you can understand why the low of the day is the low of the day. Previous support, resistance turned support yesterday, so you've got your 3 key levels there for the euro. Quick look at gold to wrap it. Pushing higher and higher and higher. When is this going to stop? Perfect conditions still, you would say, for gold, and another false break in early trade there seen. So maybe we've got decision time coming. You'd favour the long, but if we were to see a close back below the pivot, you might see a bit of an unwind as well. Anyway guys, hope all is well, and I'll catch you later on.